Where does your story begin?
Well, that's my childhood. It was actually when my dad wasn't able to look after us. He wasn't financially capable, emotionally capable, ready. He's a very kind of sinking man, in essence, with a great affection. He can handle two young children about 8. So I was fostered 4 years, money street to settle.
Then we moved into a council house, and my dad remarried. And she very much abused me from the outset, in terms of physical abuse, mental abuse, psychological abuse. She used to stop me going out seeing my friends, used to lock the door from the inside, so used to beat me up quite a lot, and just basically suppress my whole life, really. I remember one time, it was -2 or 3 in a winter night. I went out and came back. I tried to get in, and she went, "No, you can sleep outside, you fucking CUNT," and locked the door. And it was just a really difficult childhood. And having your mum abandon you when you were 2 and your stepmom abuse you in that way, it really affected my self-worth.
Of course it would.
My ability to form relationships with myself and other people.
Where was your dad at this point in your life? Why couldn't he stop all of this? Did he know about this? Did he know about the abuse your stepmom was?
I think my dad was very insecure and a vulnerable person as well. And I think that my mum mistreated him so badly. I think he kind of fell into the next relationship, and I think from his point of view that he felt he sacrificed quite a lot to look after us in the end, and kind of took her side and kind of almost enabled it and allowed it to happen in a way. And we ended up falling out a little bit. I remember one time my dad punched me in the kitchen because I took some cheese out of the fridge without asking, and she went absolutely ballistic at me, and I stood up to her, and then he punched. So it's just things like that where it's like, mate, what are you doing?
How many years was this going on for?
Throughout. I mean, I think she moved in when she was when I was from about 12 till 15. And she had a mental age of about 8 or 9. She had this mental incapacity where she couldn't really read or write very well. Her diet consisted of gateaux, cakes, chocolates, crisps, Coke. She didn't do any of the housework. So myself and my brother were left to kind of look after my dad, who also had multiple sclerosis as well.
Oh, really? Your father had MS?
Yeah, and that was really challenging. So we were kind of like, it was a horrible house. It was quite dirty. There was no semblance of like nurturing. There's no love there really. But that we sit there in front of the TV and just watch TV all day, and it was just so.
Were you in school at this point?
Yeah, but I went to thank God I managed to go to a grammar school, because the other school was just I used to have to walk past that school to get home, and it was a really rough school. To not get beaten up on a daily basis, I was lucky. I did get beaten up and called a pikey quite a lot. I went to a grammar school in the end, but I hated it there. I didn't complete a full week in the last year. I skived. I forged my dad's signatures, and I used to on the sick notes, right? And then I used to get on my bike after my paper round, ride to the nearest train station or different train stations, and even at that age, I tried to jump in front of a train because I just felt so kind of unloved, unworthy, insecure, very shy. Wasn't taught love, wasn't nurtured love. My mum abandoned me. So it was kind of like, I just felt very different to everybody else.
What age were you here? What age was this?
We're talking from 12 to 15.
Do you have memories or is it vivid memories? Are these memories that you have, and obviously you speak about at the age you are now, when we tend to go through abuse and abandonment and loss and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
Our minds tend to block out a lot of things. It's a psychological state of being, the mind to make us feel safe. What I'm trying to get to is, do you remember everything completely, or do you also have blackouts as to what had happened? What I'm trying to ask here is maybe, have you ever sat down with your brother and spoken about this, get down in real detail as to how everything did happen?
Yeah. Myself and my brother have spoken about this recently, and there's another twist to this as well, because I also found out fairly recently, my foster mum told me that my brother wasn't my brother. What I mean by that, my mum was pregnant with my brother when my dad took her in, and we didn't find this out until like 2 or 3 years ago. So throughout our lives, we thought my dad was our dad and our mum was our mum. So our mum was our mum, but my brother has got a different father. So it was a very difficult situation there, but I think my brother coped better than I did, because he got sent to a boarding school where there was structure and there was process.
How come he was sent to a boarding school?
Because he had some learning difficulties
Okay.
himself, and he was a bit behind. So he went to this special school, which was like 10 or 15 miles away. So for me personally, I felt as if I lost my mum. My stepmom was horrendously abusive. My dad wasn't there as a support, and also my brother wasn't around as well.
Right.
Loss. But for him, I think that really helped him, because it gave him process, it gave him structure, it gave him a sense of
Discipline
and normality. Whereas me, every day I was forced with facing my stepmom being like that. So, and my brother got married quite young, and he's got a strong wife, and that kind of helped him. Where I think I struggled with this a lot more emotionally, and I attracted the wrong women in my life.
Yeah, of course.
Who then kind of repeated what my mum did to my dad a little bit to me. So I was a victim of my own parental management.
Well, to be honest, when people obviously go through situations like this, we do tend to attract our parents, to be honest. We mirror the same people that raised us.
Absolutely.
And so, of course, you were going to attract women like that. Where did you meet her?
Who?
Your the girlfriend or the
well, I
the
mean,
woman you just said.
I had some different relationships. I fell in love for the first time when I was 18, actually, and that relationship lasted a year. But then I caught her cheating on me, which really hurt me, actually.
That's the worst,
as
honestly.
It would do. So like that hit me quite hard, actually. But then I joined a big. I joined S3. Became their worldwide top biller, and then they asked me to move to Bristol to set up the Bristol office. I did, and within 6 months I met this Irish girl, and we got pregnant pretty much after 6 months, which is very quick. The relationship was terrible. The way that she told me that we were pregnant was, if you don't want this fucking baby, you can fuck off. Kind of like, okay. And we kind of broke up after straight after he was born. And then he was taken away to Ireland for a number of years, so I didn't see him.
This is your first born.
So, and this really killed me. I remember being at a lock-in in a pub and not seeing him for a couple of years, and just felt so like vividly so kind of bereft and vacant and kind of like hollow. Eventually I got him back, built up a good relationship with him.
Why did you lose him?
Because she just took him away. She didn't want anything to do with me, and she wanted to be in Ireland with him. And she came back, and I had to go through, the courts where, unfortunately, I think there's a lot of disadvantages that women have in this world, right? But also, I think the system around parental alienation, where if you have a divorce or you break up with the mother of your child, I think it tends to heavily favour the woman. So there was all these things where I had to prove myself I was a decent father, go through a Kafka's interview and then go through like this assessment, and then eventually got contact in a contact centre, and it was all very difficult, and eventually that all dropped and it all subsided, and I got contact with him, and I was seeing him every other weekend, and it was really, really good. But then it happened again where it just became a very difficult situation. So people who have suffered parental alienation know what it's like and how manipulative some people can be. And unfortunately, you're guilty before you're proven innocent with these things.
Yeah.
And it's very difficult. And I was quite a young father, so I was only like early 20s, and I'm a different father now. I've got two beautiful boys. And I think that when I eventually did get Kieran back, I probably overcompensated for it. I probably tried too hard. And the relationship was quite fractured. And every time I built a relationship with him, I got a close relationship with him. She then tried to take him away from me again. It was just very difficult.
Why did she have to keep taking him away from you? Was this like a form of control
Yeah.
that she had over you?
Yeah.
What was happening though? Did she want to get back together? Like what was
No,
happening?
it wasn't that. I just think she wanted to take out revenge for me not wanting to be in a relationship anymore, by punishing me for denying contact with my son was her way of getting back at me.
Yeah.
So I can't put any plainer terms on that, really.
Oh, and how old is your firstborn now?
Makes me sound old. I'm 47. He was born in 2001, so he's 23.
Okay, and you have another two beautiful boys as well. How old are they?
Phoenix, who's 6, and Chester, who's 9, but he's going to be 10 in a few weeks. Beautiful boys. I see them every other weekend, every Wednesday, half the holidays, and I cherish every moment with them. They're beautiful.
This episode is sponsored by The Luxury Playbook, a digital publication that empowers you to achieve your luxury goals through data-backed articles in real estate, investing, and entrepreneurship. The Luxury Playbook is an online resource providing daily updates on essential information. Visit theluxuryplaybook.com today and gain the insights necessary to jumpstart your journey to success in real estate, investing, and entrepreneurship.
After becoming obviously a parent and the stuff that you went through when you were a child, how has that influenced you being a parent?
Well, I think I'd never want to put my children through what I went through. That abandonment, that disregard for your feelings, and also the parental alienation I've suffered as well. So it's kind of enabled me to realize the impact it has on children. Picture yourself as a 2-year-old or a 4-year-old or a 6-year-old or a child. You've got two parents, and one of them is just taken out of your life. It's like your whole life, or half of your whole life, is removed from you. Because when you're a kid, you don't really, you're still forming your mind and your emotions and your life, and so I can't explain what that was like. So for me, it almost made me a better parent, because it made me want to understand their emotions, made me want to care for them and just be there for them, be present for them as well. So I admit that I'm a much better father now than what I was back then, and that comes with time and experience. So I've used that difficulty to be the complete opposite.
That's really great. Yeah. I mean, people don't even get the chance to have a second chance at life with basically a parent. For example, myself, I was raised with no dad, and he was always in and out of my life. And there was just one time I remember where we were just sitting together, and I was really just waiting to hear, "I'm sorry, I left," something, And being that child, I can understand obviously what you went through as a child, and obviously what Kieran probably went through as well. Have you ever sat down with him and spoken to him about what went on?
This is the thing I need to do. We're kind of estranged now, but I'm trying my best to get back in contact with him. But it's very difficult in the situation where you're alienated from your child to not just talk about how it affects you. So it affects me greatly as a grown man.
Right.
So how has it affected him as a child? So I've got to come at it from that perspective around foregoing any heartbreak and trauma that I've suffered. It's about how it's affected him. So when I do speak to him, it'll be very much,
it will be
apologizing to him from my point of view and just saying, I'm sorry you've had to go through that. I'm not here to blame anybody, or I just want to know that I'm here for you and I love you.
Yeah.
And I want to make up for lost time, and kind of like, I think it's got to be a slow, because I think from his perspective, irrespective of what's happened or how it's happened, I haven't been in his life.
Right.
It's not from want of trying. So he's bereft of that, and he's had that loss. So from his perspective, his view of me is probably tainted. He probably thinks, and it's a very difficult situation.
Yeah. And I do wish for you, obviously, to have peace on this, and
Thank you,
obviously you guys have that connection and everything. So I do wish you well on that.
Thanks.
And it's everything a child obviously wants, regardless of the circumstances of what the parents had to go through. Every child wants to know the reasons why, just like you, for example, being the age you are now, you would like to know why the fuck all this happened, right?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, we're all victims of victims.
Yeah.
100% believe that. And I don't know if you've ever read You Can Heal Your Life by Louise L. Hay.
No, I haven't had them.
She's an author of self-help books.
Okay.
It's a Bible for me, honestly. And in the book, she has exercises, and it's all to do, and it's all about abandonment, loss, just obviously a lot of stuff that you go through as a child anyway.
Yeah.
And she says that we're all victims of victims.
Yeah.
So the reason, let's say, your parents raised you the way they raised you was because that is how they knew how to raise.
It's hereditary. It was born down from their parents, absolutely. But I like to think that I'm the break from the norm in my family, because although it's happened to me, and I talk about it on every podcast, I talk about it with friends quite a lot, but I do believe firmly that I have harnessed that adversity and that trauma.
Yes, and that's great, because you've broken that cycle. Exactly. And it's amazing.
So from victim to victor, I'd like to think, and I think that's really powerful.
Yeah, and in the book, it actually does tell you that it basically makes you reflect on what has been happening. So, for example, if you were doing the same stuff to people the way your parents were, you then reflect and see, oh my God, I'm doing the same thing, and then you cut it, you break the cycle. Great book. You should read it.
Sounds good.
It's an amazing book.
Yeah. So
anyway, okay, how did you also get into recruitment? Because you're obviously very well known in the recruitment industry. So how old were you when you started in recruitment?
I think I was 21, 22. I used to live in Slough, of all places, and I got my CV together and walked down Slough High Street in person to about 4 or 5 employment agencies and said, can you get me some interviews? And I got an interview at Computer Futures, which is part of the S3 brand. Walked in there, kind of like, they're all standing up on their phones, shiny shoes, pinstripe suits. A few of them were driving Ferraris. It's a real hardcore environment. There's little old me, kind of quite shy, and thought, but for some reason I thought, I just felt like, wow, this is my thing. This is what I can do. And I had 11 interviews, got the job.
At the same company?
11
interviews?
Yeah, they just one consultant after another, senior consultant. I'll speak to you 10 minutes, like a speed dating thing almost.
Oh, wow.
And then I had a last meeting in the boardroom against 6 other candidates with the chairman, and he just offered me the job. So bearing in mind, this is a £1.4 billion business, 4,000 consultants across 20 countries and 60 offices. I started off in a team of just resources, was top of that charts every single week. Then I became a consultant. I was the fastest person to get to 30 contractors. What industry
were you working in?
It was contract doing IT project program management.
Right, okay.
Then they asked me to move to Bristol. I was given the old school AS400 mainframe, which is an old IT system in the Southwest. There was only 44 clients I could place in. I placed in 43 of them. I was the fastest person to get to 30 contractors, was billing 500, 600, 700 grand a year. Then became manager, director, team leader, and became S3's worldwide top bidder across all the consultants.
How many years were you there until you became?
5 years, and myself and my team made them nearly 15 million quid. I worked in the main head office, worked in the London office.
Wow.
I remember moving to the London office and the guys there saying, yeah, this is the Premier League now, mate. You're from Bristol, you've got no chance here. And I did a hat trick in my first week and just knocked it out of the park. So I loved it.
Wow.
Yeah, it was good.
Amazing. Yeah. So obviously, you're how old here? 20?
Now I'm about 25, 26.
Right.
And I left and set up my business. So, but
at that age, at 25, 26, when obviously you were getting promoted, you were making a lot of money.
Yeah.
Coming from nothing.
Yeah.
And then making all that money. How was that?
Oh, I remember because I hit the highest car target you could have. I had a a BMW M3 or 330 convertible. It was a gorgeous car. Kind of like I was earning, I don't know, 15, 20 grand a month probably. Back then, this is 20
That
years
was
ago.
a lot of money.
Big money, right?
Still is, by the way.
Huh?
Still is a lot
Still
of money.
is now, mate. Yeah, absolutely. But I didn't know what to do with it necessarily. I was buying, particularly when I started my business as well, I bought a 25 or 30 grand Audemars Piguet watch in rose gold. And a week later, I thought, oh, actually, I quite like Keaton Chrome as well, and bought another watch as well. And it's just like, because I thought, I know I was spending like 5, 6, 7 grand on nights out, and I spent 18 grand on a 3-night stay in Sardinia. I'm not showing off, by the way. At that time, because I had the money, I didn't necessarily see the value of it.
It was also a sense of validation as well.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what I mean by this.
Yeah.
When we've come from a background as what maybe you have come from, with not a lot of money or whatever, starting to make a good amount of money and then buying the things that we've always wanted to have, buying expensive things as well. It wasn't to show off, but it was to validate that you can make.
I agree. It was definitely that validation piece, but also it was almost like a form of, it's trying to replace the love that I never had.
Exactly,
I think by a material thing. And, you know, so I bought a watch, wanted a bigger one, bought a car, wanted a bigger one, bought a house, wanted another one. I was always chasing this thing. And actually at the immediate response was, oh, this feels really good. This feels validating. But then it wasn't a solution for me. So I spent money really quickly on that because it was trying to replace what I'd never had.
Yeah. So you were working at this agency for some time now, and you obviously scaled the business as well.
Yeah.
How did you scale the business?
Well, very much. I'm a hardcore contract recruiter, 360 top biller. So that was what we tried to do is ingrain that in our people. So I was the top biller within the business that I worked at. So I was billing 300 or 400 grand a year in the first couple of years. We decided that Pete would focus more on the operation side of the business. But when people coming in, they would kind of, if they saw the directors smashing in deals, you know, it was easier for us to set the expectations ourselves. So I wouldn't ask someone to do something I'm not prepared to do myself. And it just created buy-in. So we had the good process in place. So I was very much on the contract side because that was my speciality. Pete was very much on the perm side. Whereas before we were trying to be all things to all people. So we made sure that we played to our strengths. We understood what our strengths were. He focused on the perm, I focused on contract, but also it was the market that we operated in, right? So our average fee was £12,000 on perm. So and we operated in not the senior exec search level, but just below that, which is a real sweet spot. So we had kind of a vertical and horizontal model where a good technical project program manager could work in retail, he could work in e-commerce, he could work in public sector, and we kind of were able to move our contractors and our candidates to different parts of the market.
Okay.
Average fee on perm was 12 grand. Average pay rate on contract was 500 or 600 quid a day. So the average fees were really, really good. We had lots of repeat business. We made sure we looked at a third new business, a third where we've placed 1 or 2 people, and a third key account. So we had a real strong business development focus. We treated every call as an opportunity. Every time we spoke to a candidate, can you get a lead, where they're working from? So we made sure that we had a short-term, medium-term, and long-term strategy. Good quality specking out of candidates, a cold calling aspect, making sure that we were adding, each person had to add 100 new contacts a month as well. So it was about what can we do this month, but also what can we do to build the business over a long period of time. And people just bought into the process. And we grew from 0 to 4 or 5 after about a year, hired a great public sector girl. We went from like 8 people to about 50 in about a year and a half because our public sector team went really well. So we went from like 1 or 2 million to 9 million really quickly. So it was a mixture of playing to our strengths, having good understanding of small, medium and long-term, short, medium, long-term business, average fees, the right markets. You guys just doing the basics consistently.
Yes. And you niched down to exactly what your needs and wants were. And that was a great, obviously, plan to have. And did you end up getting shares in this business? How did you, because you sold this business, so how did you obtain it?
I set it up from nothing. Myself and my business partner were 50-50 business owners. So we owned the business ourselves.
Okay.
So we bootstrapped it. We set it up on our own, got it to 25 million quid, 100 people. So we're turning over 25 million pounds every single year. We had 1.5, 2 million quid profit line. We had 100 people. We had 3 offices. I had 14 industry awards. We were voted the second best company to work for in Europe. 3 Virgin Fast Track 100 awards in a row. So it was a 50-50 thing. So we were basically millionaires, you know. Offices
at what age?
27, 28, 29. So when I was, after 8 or 9 years, I was in my mid 30s. My business partner walked in one day and said he didn't want to do it anymore. So we had to go to sell the business, well, I wanted to stay on. So we had to find a buyer for his 50%. The business was worth anything from 5 million up to 20 million, 25 million at that time. So I did a private equity deal with a very well-known, high-profile person in recruitment. He bought Pete's 50% out. I stayed on as a CEO, kept my 50%. The first year was really, really good. The second year, it all got destructed, and I lost the business. I had to take the new guy to court. It took me 4 years, cost me 600 grand. I ran out of money. My mental health was shot, and I did a deal out of court with him for peanuts. So I lost millions of pounds, lost my purpose, lost my business. I got divorced, lost access to my children again, and had 3 suicide attempts in the space of about a year. I was fucked.
Completely.
Yeah.
But Jesus, God, you've really been through it. Why did you attempt suicide again? Because we did speak about this in the very beginning of our chat, and we kind of like subsided. We didn't even cross it, like go into it. But what was going through your head at that point?
I just thought it was kind of one thing after another, right? So you look at the abandonment of my mum, you look at then the abuse of my stepmom, you look at the girlfriends that I lost, you look at the parental alienation I had with my first child. And then obviously then I lost a 25 million pounds. So it kind of like 5 major events. I just thought life is against me. Even when I start to do really well in business, that's taken from me as well. So I just felt that it wasn't worth me being around. And people are out just to try to destroy me. I didn't see a future in my life. I didn't have, because to build a business like that, you have to have passion, energy, aspiration, drive. I had all of that. When that's gone, I had nothing to look forward to. I had no dreams. So I just thought, I remember like one of the times I was going to commit suicide. At the time, I owned quite a 6-bedroom house. It was a 7-foot big house, a swimming pool, this kind of stuff. And this is when I still had the business. I lost that house as well. And for about a week, I was walking around the house, and every moment, every thought I had was like, I want to kill myself. Everything I did, everything was tough. Everything was dark. Every thought I had, I hated myself. It was very hard to explain. It was like, right, I need to end this now. And every day for 7 days, and the more I thought about it, the more excited I got about the opportunity to end my life. So I planned it out, and I was going to drive to Chippenham train station because I knew that that was far enough away, and every half an hour or so a high-speed train would go past that. Got in my car, and I remember getting in the car thinking, oh, the sense of relief. Chris, you're finally doing it. You're finally going to not be here anymore. This pain can stop. And got in the car, and
What stopped you?
well, I was on the platform, walking up and down the platform. I saw the high-speed train coming in the distance. Thought, this is my chance. And it got to the platform, it started to slow down. And I looked at the front of the train. I was like, that's definitely going to kill me. I'll wait for the next one. Then I got a call out of the blue, and it jolted me out of it. And I kind of got back in my car. So it just, there was an impromptu call. It wasn't about anything else. I didn't obviously tell the person. It kind of sort of snapped me back into, I thought, I'm going to go home and see my kids. And yeah, I didn't. And then another time at a mate's wedding, I tried to tie my tie over myself and hang myself and stuff like that. There's been 2 or 3 times that I've done that, and I'm just glad I didn't now.
Chris, of course, yeah. And I'm glad you didn't do do that, and I'm sure your children are glad you obviously didn't do that too. And choosing life is way better than choosing death.
Yeah.
Did you seek help throughout this process?
Not at the time, no. But then I've had a number of different. I've had counselling, quite a lot. I've done AA, GA, because I've been a gambling addict before. I've gone through all that, which has been helpful. I've had a number of different coaches, and now I've still got a coach, different coach. I think it's important, but now because I've been through that experience, I now advise and coach other people who've gone through that as well. So I think the great coaches have lived the experiences.
Yeah, you need life experience in order to obviously coach someone.
And I think that coaching should never stop. Doesn't matter who you are. If you're the greatest coach in the world, you still need to have a coach yourself. So absolutely, I've done all that kind of stuff. Yeah,
100%. So after how many years passed after you started your next business, which is the purpose-led business?
Base Mindset is my coaching business.
Base Mindset, that's it.
So yeah, I mean, I finally exited my business and got the minimal payout in 2014. It took me probably 3 years to recover from that, to even sort of be able to really even leave the house.
Yeah, depression hit.
So yeah, it was about 2020, 2021 or so. I had a divorce by then and started to come back onto LinkedIn. And I was invited by a guy called Andrew Silito to do a webinar on LinkedIn. I chose to do it on vulnerability and leadership. So I talked about some of my situation. Started to get quite confident on LinkedIn, started to do a few posts, and people started to like it, and people started to build rapport with me. And then very quickly, I've got up to 72,000 connections on LinkedIn, 2 or 3 million views a month. And I kind of harnessed my story and told my story, and it kind of resonated, and recruitment business owners were coming to me. So I've helped over 50 recruitment businesses build, scale and grow in the last 3 or 4 years, because people know that I've been there, done it.
Yeah.
They also know that what I've been through as well. And I think in a paradoxical way, what's happened to me is actually pivoted me and enabled me to build a business and be the man that I am today. So
I'm building it in a different way than how you built the very first business too.
Yeah. So if I knew then what I knew now, it would be different. But everyone can say that. But I'm a much better leader, father, man now than I ever have been. And I'm thankful for that experience because it's really shaped me.
Yeah, of course. I also want to ask you, what message would you like to share with other people who possibly are currently going through something like this right now? Suicidal thoughts, abandonment or loss. What advice could you give someone out there?
From my personal experience, and before I say this, what I like to say is any advice I give in the mental health area has been helpful to me. It doesn't mean it's necessarily right for everybody. But what I will say is, from my personal experience, every time I've encountered a really dark moment or trauma, at the time it feels absolutely terrible. But without dark, there isn't light.
Yeah.
And from that darkest times, I found the most inspiration, the most magic, that is when you're forced to look into yourself and you're forced to feel, something good always comes from that. So my advice is, if I may, is that nothing's permanent. And whenever you're in that dark place, hang on, stay patient. It passes, and the good. It happens for a reason. And I think it in many respects, the darkness can be a good thing, because you know something good can come from that, and you're kind of forced to look at yourself and look at life. And what it did to me was, instead of pointing fingers and blaming other people, I started to take accountability. Yes. So I feel in this podcast, I've probably come across as if I've blamed other people to an extent, but I've also been a common denominator as well. And there's maybe look at what role did I play in this kind of stuff. So sometimes there's darkness and there's adversity and there's trauma and there's abuse that, of course, it's got nothing to do with you and it's not a personal thing. But I think that everything's a test and it's how you respond.
Of course. And, everything does happen for a reason. And obviously it's sad that you had to go through that in your lifetime, but you have really shed some light into this situation of maybe people are possibly going through this right now, abandonment, loss, this, that, the other, whatever shit, basically.
Yeah.
And I hope this does reach out to people and for them to understand that, like you said, there is always light after the darkness and everything. And so I really, really, really want to thank you for coming onto this podcast. Hopefully we can do a part 2 another time. Thank you so much. And thank you for coming onto the Resilient Lounge.
Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed it.
Great.